The last year has been like maybe 13 months or so. The last 13, 14 months have been the best for punk rock that I can recall in quite some time.
Mm-hmm.
Like maybe it's because I was paying closer attention. That is a real thing. But I do believe that some of the reason I paid closer attention is because of what was being brought to the table. What's up, everybody? How you doing? Welcome back to the Punk Rock Review Podcast. Man, hold up, dude. Me and Robert hanging out today, and we have what I think is a really interesting episode because while it's gonna parallel our favorite bands for the most part, I do think that the ranking will be a little different. At least it is for me. And there's a couple of curveballs that people might not expect me to have thrown in here. We're going to talk about our favorite punk rock vocalists, and I've got it down to a top 10. I think Rob has some additional ones he'd like to speak on, and it should be a fun episode. So I hope everybody's having a good day. Rob, what's up, buddy? How's your day been?
Oh, my day's been busy but amazing, and really thinking about this list as we are kind of awash in punk that's coming out right now, and then even going back to the past. So it's just been a fun week to kind of be immersed in this world.
The last year has been like maybe 13 months or so. The last 13, 14 months have been the best for punk rock that I can recall in quite some time.
Mm-hmm.
Like maybe it's because I was paying closer attention. That is a real thing. But I do believe that some of the reason I paid closer attention is because of what was being brought to the table.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right, because like I have people coming to me and talking to me about some of this stuff right now that that's not my relationship with that person is not necessarily like rock music or music, but just like, hey, I saw this, I saw Green Day on that, you know what I mean? So I'm kind of like the reference point for that kind of thing, which just kind of shows you how much it's reaching stuff. And this just was not the case like 5 years ago. Punk just felt like it was in a different spot. It felt underground, but not in a cool kind of way. It just felt kind of it felt so past tense. And a lot of these guys that are doing it are still very much older guys, so it's not like everything is so current, but like there's not a lot of nostalgia acts, and that's what's funny, because it's a lot of the older bands, but they're not really acting as if they're resting on their laurels. They're not doing like greatest hits tours necessarily. They're putting out
they're bringing new material to the table.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Green Day, Alkaline Trio, Blink-182, Rancid, geez Louise, dude, Sum 41, bands I don't even listen to that much are just bringing like so if I missed somebody, that's my only point was that if I missed them, it wasn't on purpose. But like tons and tons of like legacy acts are bringing new material, which is making them not necessarily a legacy act like you were saying.
Mm-hmm.
They're just a band that is still active, which I find incredible in 2024, 2023.
I love it. I love not having to evolve. I love that I can still stick with all my artists. Isn't it awesome though? But like,
I genuinely love that, and I think a lot of people hate on that. And I don't really get it. Like, what is the deal? Why do you have to change? Why do we have to evolve? Why do we have to make things different? If the wheel ain't, or if it ain't broke, don't fix it. I'm not trying to, I put two together, reinventing the wheel. Right. And if it ain't broke, don't fix it. But you know what I meant? Don't try to reinvent the wheel. And if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Those are two things that very much I agree with within the punk rock space. Yeah, man, there's a lot of music coming out right now. And I think we're in an interesting place. I don't know. I'm happy with it. I really enjoy it because I was out of the loop for so long trying to get my life together, that now that we're in a spot where I'm getting fresh material from people that I care about, it's also getting me to go in and look for new artists. I don't know that I would do that if it wasn't for Rancid dropping a new album. I might just stick to the old records and not look for anything new. But I am looking for new stuff. I am writing things down every day. I am doing the Sunday night live stream. People don't understand the Sunday stream is where I'm discovering music as much as anybody else is, man. It's rarely a request. It's mostly I have a set stuff that I'm bringing to the table. Like, hey, look what I just found. I just discovered this, yada, yada, yada. And so there's a lot of music out there, man. A lot of music.
Well, and then one thing too we should think about is like the touring scene right now. Like that to me is the sign of how healthy it is, that like people are willing to risk a lot of money on the or bet a lot of money on the fact that you're going to go pay a lot of money you would never have paid to see punk rock bands, to go see these bands all over the country. And like every festival that's popping up has like some sort of like punk rock flair to it that you're seeing. You're seeing these bands, even stuff that's more just tangential, like a Sublime and No Doubt on a Coachella stage. That's not necessarily related to punk and pop punk, but it just sort of gives you that notion that whole alternative music thing is kind of bubbling right back up. But it's not being dismissed though, in like the way, like for years it was just the Foo Fighters and the Chili Peppers, and that was like American rock music. And I think like Green Day is kind of spearheading this, but a lot of other bands too. It's like, no, there's other parts of American rock that are still out there, that might have also been popular 20 years ago. And again, I think a lot of it too is like people like us are kind of older now, so we're sort of the tastemakers in a lot of ways. That stuff it's classic rock in some ways, and so it can sort of have. I mean,
that's what I was going to say. I was going to say that the reason it's come back around is because it's the 20-year swing, dude. It's like, we're back. The only difference is we had a bunch of stuff happen at the end of the loop. So like, we're looking at it from a different perspective because we never had COVID-19 thing happen before. We've never had a this or a that happen before. So we're looking at it as if it's new, and it's really just the same old thing. It's just, I was talking to somebody the other day about how punk rock, the fact that I made that video from the 90s to 2005, it is 2024, bro. It has been 20 years since that ended, and we're right back in the middle of another resurgence of street punk stuff, and that came from the resurgence of pop punk. I have a dude on my channel that I'm trying to get on the show this week. I need to email him after we talk. He's in like this pop punk band. Let me tell you the name of them. I want to shout them out. They're really good. Scooped Up. They sound like 90s pop punk stuff made right now. It's a new band, but it sounds like the 90s, bro. And I was so excited when I saw it. I caught him on a video on like a Instagram thing, and it was a funny little skit he did. And I was like, yo, this guy's cool, man. So if Scooped Up sees this, you guys are rad. Great music. The vocals took a little time to get used to, but I like them a lot. They sound like I don't know, man. I don't know how to describe it. It's like a monotony MXPX type of sound. It's good, man.
Well, for context, their art is a drawn on animated Chuck Taylor stepping on gum. Chuck Taylor stepping on gum. They know their audience, if that's the case.
Correct. So before we start talking about our favorite vocalists of I guess punk rock, you got to listen to the new Green Day album finally.
Yeah.
How do you feel about the record? We're going to spend some time on this next week, so I don't want to go too deep into it, but I haven't really talked to you much about it.
Right.
How do you feel about it? And do you still feel as though Green Day represents punk rock?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. To both of them, and yeah, I don't know if you asked me. Yes, as far as we've talked offline about how much I enjoyed it the first time I listened through. That's growing for me. I mean, I like it much more now than I did that first time. And I liked it quite a bit that first time. And
okay.
I want to, before I do like bigger reviews, I'm glad we're going to talk about it next week, because I want to sit with it for a whole other week too, to make sure, because Green Day is such a competent band, you know what I mean? Like they make such good stuff that like they can kind of put out 10 songs and I'm going to kind of like them because they're fairly good, and as long as they're listenable. And I think you hit on your stuff on a lot of the reasons why this is resonating specifically right now too, and that has a lot to do, and it's had a lot to do with their career. And so that kind of ties into the other thing you're saying, like, do they represent punk? I mean, I think so. I think that is what they do in the mainstream.
Okay.
They are the closest thing that, like, you know, real legit punk rock's ever gonna get. Like the closest seat at that table that's ever gonna come is gonna be Green Day, and that's exactly what they are the access point of the mainstream world to punk rock. It, like the mainstream shorthand of punk rock, I think, is Green Day. That's what it is. Like if someone interrogated it for a second, someone might say, you know, one of these other bands that just like intuitively punk rock, but like, say if someone kind of thought about it for about half a second, you probably say like Green Day. That's American mainstream's punk rock band. It's Green Day.
So while I think you're right about people would think that, I think that they don't represent punk rock anymore. I like the album. I have flip-flopped what you did. I was high on it when I first heard it, and I've come down to earth a little bit. Not to a degree it's gonna, well, it probably will piss off some people, but it absolutely shouldn't, because I'm not gonna say it's a bad record, because it's not. There's like 2 or 3 songs that I might skip, and there's a handful that I don't absolutely love, but like overall, it's a great record. The singles I thought were the highlight of it, which is odd because usually that's not the case for me. I'm usually the opposite of that. I want to hear the deep cuts. But the singles, they were really smart with their singles. They picked, 4 singles, maybe even 5 by now, that were just representative of all kinds of different sounds. And the reason that I say that they don't represent punk rock anymore is because, for one, there's always been an argument since their inception that they weren't a punk band anyways. Now, I didn't agree with that. I've always thought they were a punk band, right? But there's always been a fair amount of people that argued that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, now, as far as I can see it, they're 2 albums removed from punk completely, because this album was not a punk album. Has nothing to do with punk. It has like a tiny little droplet of punk in like 2 songs. And even that doesn't really sound like punk to me. It's not bad. Doesn't mean it's a bad thing. I'm not judging it on that. I'm just saying that my observation would be there was nothing punk rock about this album. This album was far closer to a Weezer album or a, I don't know, dude, anything like that. Like that 90s garage rock, grunge rock, like more rock. Like if you took, I guess maybe if you took like some Nirvana and mixed it with some actual like punk rock and roll stuff, but not quite as dark, because their tuning's different. Their melodies are different. The speed of the songs is different. The tempo, it's just, and it's not a bad thing, dude. They got to grow. I don't want Dookie again. I would just go listen to Insomniac if that's what I wanted. Mm-hmm. And so I do think that they are pretty far removed from anything remotely punk rock at this point. I mean, shit, dude. Father of All, it's probably my favorite album by them now. Is not punk rock. Like, bro, that album is perfect, dude. I don't understand the hate. Like, I do think that maybe they should have called it something other than Green Day, because I don't understand. Yeah. I think if they had called it anything else, dude, Day Green, who cares? Anything else, people would have received it a lot warmer and been a lot more open to it. Hey, this is Billy Joe and Trey and Mike Dirk's new side project band. They want to do this, but I guess they couldn't because they had a contract that they were they owed an album to. But people are like, oh, they just did this throwaway album. I'm like, bro, I can't imagine that Billy Joe Armstrong would put out a throwaway album. He's not that. I think he's got too much respect for himself and his fans for that. At least that's the way I feel. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe he said it somewhere. I don't know. I haven't read anything about it. But when I heard that, I was like, it's not a throwaway album. It's different. You may not like it, but it's not a throwaway. I thought the album was legitimately a perfect record. It's the only album outside Insomniac that doesn't have a skip for me.
Well, yeah, and that's the one thing too with Green Day. I don't like that album at all. But Green Day's reputation is of like ridiculously hardworking band. There's an area they definitely, I think, bring in from their punk rock roots, and like everyone who's worked with them says that. And that's sort of why they take a long time to create music sometimes, because they work on their craft a lot. I would just never accuse them of having to throw away music, like, period. Like
it's wild.
The closest thing anyone's ever sort of legitimately accused them of throwaway music would have been with Insomniac, but it's a great record,
that one said. Seriously, people say that about Insomniac?
Yeah, they just say it wasn't. That's why it's a lot darker than everything else.
Interesting.
They just
so
that's a theory, but that doesn't really speak to the quality of it necessarily. You know what I mean?
So I like their 2 most unpopular records.
No, Insomniac's not unpopular.
I'm being silly.
No, you do like their most unpopular record. Yeah, that is correct.
Yeah,
Insomniac is not that, but
man, when I heard that record, I was so surprised, man. I could not believe it. Like, I mean, you can see it. It's up on the internet. I was just like, I was confused for the first like 3 songs, but I loved it, man. It was so fun. Like, it's the most fun record I've heard in a while. But I also really like, dude, if that album had been, let's say, 14 songs and 39 minutes, I don't think I would like it at all. It was 10 songs, 28 minutes, get in, have some fun, get out. Dude, that's like a perfect little like companion album to other stuff. You can grab that. Oh, grab Father of All too. It's short. We can listen to it in 30 minutes. All right, yeah. Instead of like, oh, it's 52 minutes of some dude. Nimrod's pretty long. I don't know if it's 52 minutes, but it's close. It's like 48, I think, something like that. But it's long. But the new album's good, man. I enjoy it.
They sound like
I
Green
feel like
Day.
They have completely removed themselves from anything punk rock at this point.
Whenever you say like, well, they sound like this, and they're doing that, and I'm like, well, because I didn't even really interrogate what they sound like on this album, other than like, it was like they sound like Green Day. Even the reviews I read, like, if it's a return to form, they sound like Green Day. I think they've going into that thing where that's what their sound is that Green Day is their sound. That's why that album bothers people because it doesn't sound like anything else. That when you
I
look,
wholly disagree. I don't think they
expectation
returned
is
to
Green Day.
form. They didn't return to form. This album sounds so different from the other stuff. The only reason that people are happy about it is because he's not singing in a falsetto and the songs aren't garage rock. They're slowed down, like grungy rock and roll songs with classic rock influences. This doesn't sound like Green Day to me. There are elements in some songs that sound like Green Day.
You don't think this sounds a lot like Kerplunk? Like a ton like Kerplunk?
No.
Yeah, it's like my criticisms of Kerplunk was that how it was slow and it was like all those things. Like that's kind of the vibe of this album, exactly.
And then just for the case of being like plays devil's advocate here, like okay, even if it did sound kind of like Kerplunk, Green Day didn't sound like Kerplunk for the majority of its career. So I mean, like if you pick,
so that would be a return to a prior form.
Right? I sure if you really want to, yeah,
like
yeah, sure. No, that's fucking retarded. But you know, when people say return to form, they're not talking about Kerplunk. You know that, right? They're talking about American Idiot, maybe Dookie even. They're not talking about
about the 90s. They're talking about the 90s is what they're talking about.
Maybe. I feel like they're talking about American Idiot personally.
That's a lot of people have said that's the narrative. That's American Idiot too, is whatever is what
I mean, that album is like objectively good. Just not my favorite. Although, bro, I may not even stay and watch Green Day play, dude, at this show. I might watch Rancid and bounce, dude. Green Day's playing Dookie in its entirety and American Idiot in its entirety, and I don't care about either of those records. I was really disappointed when I heard that. Like, legitimately,
you're the guy.
Legitimately bummed me out, dude.
You're the one.
What?
You're the one.
Sure. I'm not. Dude, look, here's the thing people have to understand about me. I'm not a big Green Day fan. Like, I have been covering Green Day because they're in the wheelhouse of things that I cover, and that's what would get me views, and I like them. They're good. But I'm not, like, a huge Green Day fan. I've never owned a shirt until this one. I've only seen them live one other time, and I believe it was because they were touring with Blink. You know, again, no hate there, but they're not, like, the top 10 band for me. And if you look at the comments on some of my videos, especially the Savior's like review, and I stand mostly behind what I said there. I don't think I've changed much. It's gone down a little bit, but people like, dude, this is an absolute masterpiece. And I'm like, bro, pump the brakes, dude. Masterpiece it is not. Like, let's just be masterpiece, dude. I mean, come on. That's the most insane shit I've ever heard in my life about that record. Masterpiece? Bro, I mean, you're being kind of quiet. Do you think it's a masterpiece?
No, but I gotta understand that opinion.
Elaborate.
I like the album. It was very good.
I like the album too.
Yeah, and so that
masterpiece.
And I think it has that sort of like feel to it for people. Exactly. It's the reason why you don't like American Idiot, though. It's the same reason you don't like that. You don't like them in that feel, and this is in that feel. And you don't like them when they're in that.
Okay, what is it that I don't like now? Explain it.
Like they that like sort of big, almost like opera style feel that they started with American Idiot. They kind of went too far on like 21st Century Breakdown and all that stuff. But this has that same sort of tone to it. And you don't like Green Day when they're at this tone.
I don't think it's totally the same at all. But look, I think it's subjective to a degree. But I don't think it's very similar in tone to those albums at all. I think that this is closer to like a classic. This is closer to an Eagles album than it is American Idiot to me. Like I listened to it like a lot. I've listened to it probably about 7 or 8 times through in its entirety.
That's what Green Day since American Idiot is. It's classic rock with punk rock infused. Like every one of those albums basically is that. Like that.
Oh, I just didn't hear that with that album. But I don't like that album very much. So at this point I can't comment past what I've already commented because I don't have the knowledge. So I don't know. I've only listened to that album a handful of times. I've listened to Saviors more than I've listened to American Idiot outside the singles because the singles were kind of everywhere. But like as an album, I didn't care for that one. So I don't have much else to say about it other than that. This sounds to me like, I mean, I heard stuff that like, oh, this could be a Guns N' Roses song like a couple of times on that album. But people were asking me like, hey, what's the most punk rock song on the record? And I'm like, I couldn't tell you, man. I didn't hear any punk rock on that record. So I thought there's a lot of grungy rock, though. A lot of good rock and roll. Good rock and roll record, though.
Well, punk rock and roll was kind of you use that term, and I had never really heard that like until you said it. like a couple weeks ago at a podcast, and I was thinking, I did have this thought. It's like almost like punk rock and roll pop is almost how you would describe that record.
You'd have to add pop to it because I don't think it has punk in it at all. Like punk rock and roll to me is like this One Man Army. That's punk rock and roll. Swinging Utters. You know what I'm saying? It's like, I guess people are calling it street punk. I've never heard it called street punk until a few weeks ago, man. This is such a stupid conversation. Let's move on.
It really is.
It's like so fucking stupid. Like I don't really care. I was just curious how you felt on it because I haven't really talked to you much lately. So I was just curious how you felt about the album to this point because who knows, dude? Like I've cooled off on it a little bit. You've warmed up on it a little bit. By next week, I could be like, you know what? I thought about it. Likely will happen. I might be like, you know what? It's trash, bro. Don't be surprised, folks. I like to gaslight people. It's fun. At least I know that though, right? Okay, let's talk about some vocalists, man. So, all right. My favorite vocalist, I have it all written down just so I don't forget anybody. I have 2.5 that are my honorable mentions, okay? One is because it's not really a punk band, but he's a hardcore band singer, but his band's also been called metal a lot. And I don't agree with that. I think they're just a straight hardcore band. But Jamie Josta from Hatebreed almost made my top 10. And the reason is because it's very seldom that you get a band that's that heavy, that fast, that hard, that you can understand what the dude's saying. And he has a voice that I think has always sounded good. It's been very consistent, and he's very good at writing lyrics. So I wanted to shout out Jamie Josta. Again, not quite there, but almost, dude. And then some local boys. Honestly, dude, at any point, they could creep in my top 10 and knock somebody out. But Richard from Liberty and Justice from Bullshit Detector and Ryan from Liberty and Justice, and they're very much in both bands, basically. So those dudes have always been some of my favorite vocalists. Different reasons, but if you just listen to them and you don't have an ear for this stuff, you will think they sound kind of similar. I've known them for 20 years, so I hear the differences. But it's a very gravelly, rough vocal style, and they have melody in there, and it's like they've got concrete mixed with some melody, and it's nice, man. But they're two of my favorite local boys. So shout out to Liberty and Justice, shout out to Bullshit Detector, two of the best bands, just period. They just happen to be from Texas. So those are my honorable mentions. Now we're getting into like this is the shit right here. We're getting into the shit, dude. Let me rearrange this to one slight degree. You know what? No, I'm just gonna leave it like it is because my top 5 is as good as it's gonna get. Okay, in at number 10 for me is another hardcore band, but when you listen to this band, you can hear their punk rock love immediately, but you also hear like thrash metal immediately. But they definitely are a bunch of punk rock guys playing hardcore metal. But Mad Joe Black from Wisdom in Chains. Bro, for a dude that would beat the shit out of you at the drop of a hat, this guy can sing his ass off, man. It's this kind of a deeper voice, very melodic, but it also has that scratch to it. You know what I'm saying? But he sings with it, dude. Oh man, I love that guy's voice, man. I'm always been a sucker for a good vocalist, and so this list will get pretty eclectic here in a minute. But you'll see a very much a style that I like. The gravelly, deeper end of vocals is usually where I'm going. I do really appreciate the higher voice as well. Ooh, I even missed one that I'll jump at before we get to the end of the list. But have you ever heard Wisdom in Chains?
I have, just on your recommendation.
Did you like them at all, or do you?
Yeah. I remember it.
They have some interesting music because it's like punk rock, but they literally like just took like a turkey thing and injected like some metal and hardcore in there, and you're like, oh, this is just like, I don't know. It's the very, very much a perfect blend of the three genres, in my opinion. They got some solos, little chug, little bit of gang vocals, but it's got a punk rock feel. A lot of the palm mute open. I don't know, dude. It's just like, they're from Pennsylvania. They're great. Go check out Wisdom in Chains if you haven't. All right. My number 9 is one that when I saw him play live solo, it changed how I felt about folky punk rock music.
I know exactly what you're going to say.
Who?
Laura Jane?
Nope. Chuck Reagan.
Chuck Reagan. Okay.
Yes. Chuck Reagan who does Chuck Reagan stuff, and Hot Water Music. He was further up my list. He's worked his way down to number 9, and you'll see why in a few minutes. But Chuck Reagan has got, dude, he sounds like a man, bro. He's just like, you're like, man, I want to go fishing and have a barbecue, maybe build a house with this guy. And but he's still like a punk rocker, man, from Florida. Hot Water Music's a great band, very melodic, very swampy dad punk. You know, the beer belly with the flannel. That's you know, we wouldn't have bands like Menzingers and Iron Chic if it wasn't for Hot Water Music, I think.
Oh man, so make sure you clip that out for a short. Your little comparison, your little rant there, Chuck Reagan. That was good, man. I like everything.
Dude, I love that guy. He's like,
I get what you're saying with like I just don't connect with Hot Water Music because like they were dad rock and I was a teenager and like I didn't understand why Alkaline Trio as best friends were so boring to me. You know what I mean?
I didn't like them. I didn't like them until 15 years ago. I was damn near 30 when I started liking those guys.
Yeah, I need to give them another chance. But his voice is objectively good. You know, it has that all those folk singers. You know, that's kind of a strength I think in a lot of them is because the vocals have to carry. You know, like the melody and have to do so much extra work. That's why I thought you were gonna say Laura Jane when you had that, because that's that would, like, if I had an honorable mention on my list, that's who the honorable mention would have been. You'd kind of
really
in that same vein. Yeah,
you definitely should give actually, oddly enough, Caution. I have Caution sitting here, signed by Mr. Chuck Reagan.
Oh,
give this album a listen, man. Give Caution a listen.
Yeah, I will.
And we have A Flight and a Crash. I couldn't remember if it was just a crash, but Caution and A Flight and a Crash are probably their 2 best albums. But they've got great music throughout their entire discography. Also, something cool that people don't know about him, he's a legitimate, like, outdoorsy type fella, right? And he will take you on a fishing tour. Like, he'll take you out on a boat and take you fishing. You can just pay for that. It's like something he does for a job.
Yeah, he's like a guy.
How freaking crazy is that? Dude, it's awesome, man. One second, my kids are about to go to bed. Let me tell them they can come say goodnight.
Yeah.
Let's see. Yeah, dude, how crazy would it be to go on like a fishing expedition with Chuck Reagan, bro? You're just like asking. He probably gets so tired of answering Hot Water Music questions.
Well, is it advertised as that? Like, is that what you're paying for? Like Chuck Reagan from Hot Water Music, or is that just his job?
I think it's just Chuck Reagan. But I mean, like, I know people that have gone and they only went because it was Chuck Reagan of Hot Water Music.
Well,
what's
shoot,
up, so
wherever he works, they probably kind of like don't mind that so much. You know what I mean?
Oh, it did. I would imagine. Number 8 is the first of 2 females on my list. I would say this is probably one of like the female. People are gonna be like, "What?" Because her Polystyrene from X-Ray Specs. I love her voice. It's high pitched, it's monotone, it's shrill. I like that. Like, it's a very abrasive voice, and I like abrasive vocals. I mean, all the stuff I've talked about thus far, with the exception of Chuck Reagan, has been kind of abrasive, kind of throaty. And Polystyrene is an old school punk rock chick, man. An old school. I mean, R.I.P. I'm pretty positive, but dude, X-Ray Specs, man. Oh, Bondage Up Yours was like the first time I heard some female punk rock shit, and I was like, oh, this is like real, like aggro music. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not like some expert on their material. I own one of their albums, and I like it. And her vocals are good enough for me to put her on this list, because every time I hear that record, I listen to the whole thing. That tells you how powerful her voice is. I don't listen to one song. I listen to the whole album. So, but I wanted to have some like female representation on this list. And I was like, the first one I thought of was her. I was like, oh, Polystyrene. So yeah.
Yeah, man. X-Ray Specs is like all your favorite bands. It was their favorite band. Like they will always drop X-Ray Specs in interviews. It kind of keeps the legend alive from Europe, right? From
I don't even know where they're from. I'm not gonna pretend, bro. I'm not gonna pretend like I know where they're from. They were a UK band, right? Yeah. Every time I make an assumption or like something like that, or say something I think is true, I get told I'm wrong. And I almost said yes to that, but yeah, okay, they were from London. Yeah, I thought they were. I've watched like one like documentary with her in it, and I want to watch more. I need to just get on top of that, man. I need to learn more about some of these musicians because they are important to me, man. She was I mean, it's the kind of stuff that I would put on a mixtape for my daughter, you know what I'm saying?
There was a lot of good female vocalists early on in punk, and then it feels like in like
especially
the
like
90s,
proto punk.
yeah, it like kind of died out. I don't know, like a lot of the stuff we have is like we can name all three of the female like bands, it feels like, from like the 90s and I don't know like what kind of happened with that. And then like I don't know if it's ever really taken off.
Days and Days, the Interrupters, the Last Gang. I mean, there's a lot of them. Distillers' old stuff, of course. I mean, Tsunami Bomb. So now there's like, a lot of female.
Yeah, because I was gonna say, like when I think of like my era, I think of the Distillers and Tsunami Bomb. But there was a street punk band too. I can't think of their name. What the heck? They were the old girl like street punk band.
I like the Lunatics. They were good.
Maybe that's what I was thinking of. That might have.
Oh, they were awesome, bro. Lunatics were badass. Then you had stuff like some of the Riot Girl stuff. You had oh my goodness, dude, La Tigre, the band they were in before, Bikini Kill, La Tigre. There's a lot of it. It's just it was never as upfront, and you can say for whatever reason. I tend to think that if you're good enough, you'll get there, but there is some of that. It does exist, dude. Sexism does exist, and I'm not gonna act like it doesn't. That's
well, yeah, like the Yeasty Girls were not going to be taken as seriously as like the other Lookout bands. You know what I mean?
Well, that's kind of my point. It's like to a degree, it's you know, merit, and then on the other hand, it's definitely who you know, and there is sexism there. It sucks. You know, there's a lot of bands that deserve to get more popular and more recognition than they got. But I would also argue there's plenty of bands that just didn't deserve it to begin with on both sides of the coin. So, but it's a touchy subject, and I don't want to piss nobody off saying something that I'm not 100% certain of. So, but I do think that there was a lot of that in punk rock, still is.
Yeah, it also just feels like a lot of times if there's a good female punk rock vocalist, they get sort of like farmed out to another genre, almost like immediately.
Paramore.
People just see
even
star
though I
on
don't
them.
think that Paramore is anything remotely close to pop punk. Good night, baby. Love you.
Love you too.
All right. See you in the morning or tomorrow. Sorry, folks. Close my door when you're on the way out, please. Also, Emil and the Sniffers are really great. Damn, there's another one that I was just thinking of. Oh, Scowl, very good band. Buggin', very good female-fronted band. Shout out to the females out there doing their thing, bro. I came up with a big-ass list. Let's go. Your boy ain't talking that shit. I know what's up to a certain degree. To a certain degree. I'm not gonna, like I said, I'm not gonna pretend I know shit I don't know, but I do know a fair amount of female vocals. Last Gang's really good. I really like the Last Gang a lot. Lunatics are great, bro. That was one of the first ones that I liked when I was a kid.
Oh, the Venomous Pinks. Shout out to them too. Fat Records.
Oh yeah, Venomous Pinks are good. The Linda Lindas. They're touring with Green Day and Rancid, but they had a song in a movie called Joyride recently that when it was in there, I was like, oh damn! It like came up on the subtitles, like, you know, whatever from the Linda Lindas, and I was like, oh, you know, got my attention because I mean, while I don't jam that band, I do own their LP and I support them.
I just think they're cool. I just think it's a cool thing because as like an old guy, I think it's cool that there's like these teenagers that are making like their music and doing their thing and kind of getting famous doing it. And it's like,
agreed.
10 years, they could all quit that tomorrow. 10 years from now, like they might be accountants or something and be like, how cool was that when we were in our teenagers? You know, we were on the movie soundtrack. Like,
right.
That's cool. You know?
Yeah, that's awesome. Good for them, man. I hope they make enough money to be able to do what they want with their life. That's what I hope.
Absolutely.
Number 7 is going to piss people off probably because it is my personal favorite street punk vocalist. Who do you think it might be?
The exploited dude. Okay, street punk. Is it Jorge? I mean, that's what I'm thinking of.
No, it's Mark Unseen. He's my favorite.
Okay,
vocalist.
that's a good
vocalist. Yeah.
He's so I have a list on my wall of sticky notes from work that I needed to use, like big sticky notes, like ones.
Okay.
Like that. So I just have a bunch written down, and I have the Unseen singer written right there.
Oh yeah, his name's Mark.
Yeah,
his brother. I guess I'm learning about this stuff as I'm making these videos. But yeah, there's other singers from the Unseen, but I like Mark's voice.
Right.
He did State of Discontent and their later albums. I like his vocals a lot.
Really carries songs, man, and that's why I thought of him specifically because like it's sometimes hard to tell who like a lot of the like there's a lot of performance. I think a lot of that street punk stuff, but like. You can discern who's better than others or what like really helps and enhances the song.
Right.
He really enhances like their music a lot. And I think that's part of what helps them rise a little bit above some of their peers and some of their like similar genre thing. We talk about it all the time of how the Unseens at like that level. I think he's a big part of that, I think.
Now, I would say part of that's production, and a lot of people will argue that he wasn't better than so and so and so and so. So I just say that he's my personal favorite, mainly because he was the one I listened to the most. I think because I like a lot of the other vocalists out there, and there's a lot that sounds similar to him. I like dude from the Virus quite a bit. Whatever though, but I mean, when I think of street punk, the first person I think of is where he, you know, that song where they go, where it's like yeah, yeah, yeah. The way he does that, it's like this high pitched like scream, and he's able to hold it. But I really appreciate his vocals a lot, man. And there's a lot of vocalists out there that I really love in that genre of music. Jorge was good. Dave Tejas is, I think, even a little better. You got dude from the Virus, dude from I think Mark sang for a Global Threat for a while too. So all kinds of singers out there. Clip 45 dudes are really great. But yeah, Mark Unseen would be an absolute favorite of mine. So, all right, what are we at in here? Number 10, 9, 8, 7, 6. Okay, so number 6, my 6th favorite vocalist of all time. I've talked about him a lot recently. I've had him on the show recently. It would be one Chris Klink from Austin, Texas, the singer of notable bands such as Born to Lose, Nowhere Bound, and now Generation Exit. If I have to explain to somebody why I like his vocals, then they don't pay attention to my channel very much. Or if you're new, he just sounds like a whiskey. Yeah, dude, I was like, wait a minute, hold on. We're growing very quick.
Thank you for watching. Yeah,
thank you for watching. Let me rewind a little bit. But no, Chris Klink has got, dude, first off, go check out the podcast we did. It was a long podcast, super fun, man. That guy is awesome. I've been to his house now and hung out with him. It's so crazy to be friends with that guy now. But he's got this like whiskey-drenched, gravelly vocal styles that sounds like a kicked puppy. And I love it, dude. It's so... That's the only way I can. It's like sounds like a oh man, poor guy. Like, you good, buddy? Like, but it's good. Like it's bluesy, just gravelly, and just, man, very, very, very blue collar. He does all his own stuff for his bands, man. I mean, it's such a lyricist too, bro. Some of the songs that guy's written, some of the words that he's put to paper have changed my life. They've gotten me through a lot of really tough times. So it's not just. I think this list will tell a lot of people about what I like in just not only vocalists, but lyricists, because it's a bunch of storytellers, a bunch of people that have talked about hard times, been through it. I mean, this dude sounds like he's, I don't know, in the middle of a breakup in a 12-pack. It's what he sounds like. I mean, it's, you know, while he's at a job he doesn't like. That's what Chris sounds like. And I say that with sincerity and, you know, love, dude. I love that guy. He's awesome. He's a really good dude. And so, yeah. Have you gotten any time with Born to Lose, Nowhere Bound, or Generation Exit yet?
Just a little bit, again, off of checking out your stuff. You know, I like all of it.
You should spend a little time going through the discography of that guy's stuff. Man, I think you'd really appreciate, especially the lyrics, because his stuff sounds so much like little bits and pieces of all the stuff we really love. All that 90s Epitaph and Fat stuff. You could tell he was around that stuff. So, but yeah, dude, Chris Klink from Born to Lose was where I discovered him, and then Nowhere Bound my wife actually found, and then I started listening to that, and then his new band, obviously I love them. I'm doing the tape for Generation Exit. It actually should be here any day now, but damn, that guy's voice is awesome. Like, it's just so good, and it's cool talking to him because you can hear it. A lot of vocalists, when you talk to them, they don't sound like what they sound like on the mic.
It throws you off, huh? You're trying to figure out, like, where did that sound come from?
Yeah, and so, but with Chris, it's not like the same, but you can hear it, and it's like that tells me a lot about what he's doing. Though he's not trying to be something he's not. He's just singing, and he's even made the point when we were talking once that some people were turned off by his vocals, and I was like, oh no, bro, I can't even understand that, dude. Like, that's like one of the selling points for me. I really appreciate gravelly voices, man. It's my jam, dude. But now we're in the top 5. The top 5 vocalists for me personally, and this is where it gets crazy, man. It gets absolutely crazy. Here's another guy that when I hear him sing and then I hear him talk, it just doesn't sound like the same person, dude. Who do you think I'm talking about?
Dickie Barrett.
No, that's a great choice, dude. Lars Fredriksson of Rancid, Lars and the Bastards, etc., etc., etc. The when I talked to him on the phone, it took me a minute to realize it was actually him because he sounds so different on the phone. But when I was a kid, uh, when I would listen to Rancid, specifically in Out Come the Wolves, I always wanted to hear the Lars parts. He has like almost the street punk, almost the Motorhead-esque vocals. And I think of the two vocalists in Rancid, he's the better vocalist. Far and away, Tim is one of the best songwriters of all time. But Lars's voice, bro, it's a perfect match with that music, man.
It's number 3 on my list. Was
Is it number 3?
Yeah, and he was the
bounced around a little bit.
He was the Rancid representative on my list. You know what I mean? And that's not shade to Tim. Like, again, no. Tim's like, you know, we don't, you and I don't need to prove our Tim love, but like, I would think like he's the more unique vocalist. There's a little bit more range there, and just like I talk about even like on the new album, like God, I love the new album, but I really love when the Lars song comes out. And exactly how you're describing like your experience with Wolves, that's how I've always kind of been. It's funny because I've always kind of thought like I kind of like the Tim songs more, which is probably true on balance, but that's one of those things we talk about, those little things that make Rancid just better than all these other bands. And it's something like having Lars to kind of come in relief, because let's be honest, that might get a little rough to listen to that many songs of just straight Tim. It kind of helps spread out the sort of the weight of how Tim stuff, and he sings too. That's the thing about Lars. He's a pretty talented singer in that, as you said, that sort of like melodic Lemmy that he affects. And when he does kind of the screaming stuff too, it's not that bad. It's not his. I'd rather hear him sing than scream. But it's not terrible
he blends
either.
the two a lot. He blends the two very well.
Yeah, kind of like a hardcore styling. I think he kind of puts on it the way he does it. And he's really like a guy that's influenced by a lot of like old school kind of stuff of different genres and stuff like that. But his thing always would look at his interviews. He just likes stuff that's intense. Like if it's hip hop, it's got to be intense. It's metal, it's got to be. He just likes a lot of that kind of stuff
for real.
Because it's funny because he's such like a corny guy. Otherwise, you know, you would think he's like a guy that like just like eats babies and walks around and just like punches walls all day long. And he seems like the most chilled out dude. Certainly he had his past and stuff, but like even you hear those stories and like. And he's pretty much over all that when he was like 24 or whatever. Like this dude's kind of like been a normal dude for about 25 years at this point.
Right. He is. I just bought a copy of the other F Word DVD because he's a very big feature in that. But
yeah,
Tim sounds like he's got marbles in his mouth when he's singing, and he's doing that Joe Strummer thing. I love it. I appreciate it. And even now, I think I like it even more than I used to. Tim would be probably somewhere around 12 or 13 for me on my list. Not far past Lars. He's up there for me. I love Tim's voice. But like Lars and the Bastards albums were almost as good as Rancid records to me. And that should tell you a lot right there. So
I think that really hits on something that you and I both had that take. Like again, transplants are different. Like Tim Time was a little like that's not like when we said that like the Bastards is like the better version of Rancid 2000s. Like that's the songs they should have put on there because
I 100% agree.
It was like which really kind of speaks to maybe even the influence of Lars in the overall like the final Rancid sound, not necessarily early on because I think that he was kind of coming into it, but he's a very much like of a guy that joins a band like. Not midway, but like, after an album or so under the belt, not like quote, not an original guy. Talk about a guy that's completely made his mark on a genre of music through one band.
Oh, he's an integral part of the band at this point. You can't have Rancid without Lars anymore. If Lars was to leave, it would have to be a different band.
Yeah, no, I would not accept that as a Rancid fan. Like that's not Rancid. That would be going like to see a different, like if they toured under that name. Yeah, that just would have been. I don't think they would. I just really think they would.
No, they wouldn't. And I don't think Matt could do what Lars does. His voice is. I like Matt okay, but he doesn't even touch my list of favorite vocalists.
He's a good third vocalist. He's good at exactly what he does. A third vocalist comes in, especially on the live shows. It's change of pace.
Yeah, I agree with that.
That'd be a lot to listen to a lot of him. You know what I mean? Like if the band would have just played him and Tim, I don't think they would have take off. Yeah,
that's why. What's his other band called?
Devil's Brigade.
No, the one that he does that's like his new band, his more recent band.
Oh, the thrash band.
Sounds like Motorhead.
Charger.
But, Charger, yeah. Charger, yeah. That's why Charger isn't as big as they could possibly be. And it's no like knock on Matt Freeman. A lot of people love his vocals. It's just not. It's not as good. Like it is what it is.
There's only so many. There's only like Lemmy was Lemmy. Like I like Lars has a take on Lemmy. that's like his
Right.
own kind of thing. You can listen to whole albums of that. Not a lot of
Yeah.
guys I think could really do that style.
Yeah, and I don't want to bash Matt Freeman. He's amazing. I love that guy.
No, I say
Um,
it's like the great third guard off the bench comes in, hits a three, everyone loves him.
right.
And he's also like the best bass player, like maybe in the history of the instrument. So there's that too.
Well, Lars's vocals they're enchanting, bro. They'll get in your ear, and it's like makes it sounds tough, and at the same exact time, he can do stuff like Marie Marie. You know what I'm saying? And you're like, yo, dude, this guy's rad.
And then you're like, God damn it, man, I almost had it. And you're just, yes, and
bro, right? Exactly.
Like he's singing, he's going up, and he's very. I think he's like a very good singer in the way he sings with that like voice from that voice.
He's like a better version of Dwayne Peters. Like I love Dwayne Peters' vocals, but Lars is like a better, more refined version of that. And when I was singing, I was getting to where I could do a pretty good Lars Fredriksson, man. Because that's what I was doing. It wasn't like I was aiming to do that. That's what I love. So when I started singing, that's just kind of how I sang. And that should tell you a lot right there that I love this dude's voice, because I couldn't do some of these other guys' vocals like they do. But I was getting to where I could ain't no way I could do like a Blink-182 vocal style. It ain't happening. My voice is too gravelly. I smoked too much, did too many drugs. But how bad would that sound?
That's like Mark and Tom, I love you guys, but like 25 years from now, when you guys are hitting the local casinos, that's what you're going to sound like. Whatever you would sound like right now, doing a pop punk vocal style. No one wants to hear any of that. Yeah.
Number 4. We are going to talk a lot about this gentleman soon. Number 4 would be one Matt Skiba. I almost had him at number 2. He is that important to me. You'll see with my 3, 2, and 1, you're going to go, okay, that makes sense based on who I am. But Matt Skiba, look, dude, he's the superior vocalist in Alkaline Trio. He has that. Dude, enchanting is a great way to describe his voice. Like I said with Lars, dude, Matt Skiba will encapsulate you in his vocals and take you on a journey, bro. And he sings so well. His dark subject mixed with his like mid-range, almost high vocal sound. I don't know what the proper terms are, but his voice is in the mid-range and it teeters into like the higher range more so than it does low. Dan can do some lower stuff better than Matt can, but Matt's vocals are beautiful. I love his voice, dude. Listen to what I said about all the Blink-182 songs. All the stuff that I had to do with anything he was a part of, the whole last reason was because of his voice. So,
yeah, I only had him number 6 on my list, so that's another piece of our crossover right there.
Yeah, he had my number 6.
Yeah, and really, like I could probably have him higher. It's hard to disaggregate, like also but like songwriter too. Okay, well then he shoots right up there, and I like all his songs better, and I probably like his performance in those songs better. So again, like that's pretty subjective, but absolutely, and a huge part of their music. We talked about that a lot on our Alkaline Trio episode, and we mentioned like there's so many songs where all of a sudden like the schema part hits and the whole vibe of the song change. Like he has that, he can affect that in what he does. So now you talk about guys with like voices and stuff, and how so he has a speaking voice that's deeper than, and I think than what he actually sounds like. And he sounds fairly deep with that high, like he has because he has got like a gruff thing on like Blue in the Face and that kind of stuff, but then he can go up to these really high ranges, but then he talks like this, whatever he does.
His voice when he talks, he sounds nervous and almost like ill.
Yeah. Or like
nervous is the best word to describe what he sounds. He sounds, but he doesn't look it when he's talking. He doesn't. Yeah. He's not nervous. He just sounds a little tentative. Like he's like, it's like, hey, how you doing? And you're like, yo, you good? He's like, oh, I'm fine, man. And you're like, oh, wow, you just sound like you're from Chicago, is what it is.
But it sounds like he's almost faking it, right? Like if you didn't know that, you think he was almost faking that.
Yeah, but I've heard him speak so many times that I know
that's his voice. Yeah, and I asked off air. I asked Mike DeMonte, like, he sounds like that, right? That's how he says. Like, yeah, no, that's just like how he like gets his coffee and stuff, and it's just one of those things,
I love Matt Skiba's vocals, man. He sincerely is a guy that. Like the first time I heard his voice, I was like, oh, I like this guy. And it goes hand in hand with all the stuff that I mean, look at all the bands that I have on here. And I've got 2 more singers, and you'll see here in a minute that they're all very much in the same group of people.
Mm.
I like a certain kind of singer, I guess, you know, and I mean, Mad Joe Black and Mark Unseen and Chris Klink and Polystyrene. Okay, sure, it's a little bit different, but dude, they all have a lot of similarities.
Mm.
Yeah, dude, Matt Skiba he's just a fantastic vocalist and a fantastic songwriter, man. He sings
Mm.
so well. I
You-
loved what he did with Blink-182. I wish he would do more stuff
It's
with
great.
other bands.
Like he's good at punk. He's good at emo. If you want to get it fast with him, you can go fast. If you want to go slow, you want to go ballad with him. You can kind of just
Right.
go wherever with it. So versatile enough to be
Versatile,
Blink 182 and Alkaline Trio. Like again, like that's that level of versatility that he has, and can do stuff that like isn't even necessarily punk rock infused, but always kind of make it kind of punk rocky, which makes him, I think, a great punk rock singer in that way. Because he's a great singer, I think, objectively too. Like if he never got into punk rock,
I would say so.
Genres,
personally,
I think he would have just been a singer. Like Matt Skiba is a singer. Like some of these guys on this list, I don't know that they were singers, but punk rock kind of brought them to it. I think Skiba would have just been a singer. I think that's what he would have done. Especially like, come on, walk around.
Hey, hold on. Your internet is super jacked up right now, and I can barely hear you for about 30 seconds. Okay, now it seems to be back. I don't know what happened. It might have just been like some kind of lag.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I'm plugged in. It's been a little funky though. It like this morning it was off on me, and and then for like 10 minutes it was just off. So I don't know if maybe the tower's messed up or something.
But it's all good. I just wanted to make sure you knew that was happening, so you could just check. So, but yeah, I think Matt Skiba is objectively just a great singer, and I think that I wish he would do more stuff, maybe with other bands or like a side project or something, because I want to hear him make more music, and I kind of wish he would do something outside the Alkaline Trio sound, like maybe not maybe do something a little more, either a little more punk rock or something even more like electronic, like do something with Davey Havok or something like that, who I'm not a fan of his like modern era of music, but I respect Davey Havok and I like his voice. But I think those two dudes could make some kind of electronic dark synthwave
like
stuff
a gothic thing. Yeah, that would be awesome. Like, let's get that together, guys. Come on.
You know what I'm saying? I think that would be something that you could. I don't know that they would take very long for that to be huge. That would be a big
no, and like, I think people outside of punk would really like that too. Like that would
agreed.
A lot of people. Yeah.
All right, dude. It is time for my top vocalists of all time. In at number 3, Brian Fallon. It shouldn't take a lot of explanation as to why this dude is my third favorite singer of all time. Brian Fallon sings for the Gaslight Anthem. He has his own solo project, and I think they did. I think it was called The Horrible Crows, which just sounded like Gaslight Anthem but slower. This is the modern age Springsteen. He's the modern age, like, I don't know what to call it. It's Springsteen punk is what I call this stuff. It's very much old pickup truck, denim jeans, crooning Elvis, girls, heartache, whiskey, rock and roll. Yeah, it's like I don't even really like. They were punk their first album, and I think they're just like a rock and roll band since then. But they like just have the
Springsteen, like American rock, and it's very specific to like in those themes and that.
Yeah, Americana punk rock. Like it's like hot water music, but even tamer. But it's not a bad thing. It's his vocals are, bro. You talk about somebody you want to cry at a bar. This is a jukebox type dude. Like you'll hear his shit and be like. I feel you, bro. Like you get dumped. Don't be listening to Gaslight. You'll be stuck in your room all day. You'll listen to the whole discography, bro. I mean, like, and they had a new album last year too, man. I'm telling you, these guys, all these musicians are killing it right now. But I don't know. Are you a big fan of Gaslight Anthem at all?
No, I get what you're saying about his voice. I think like I don't like a lot of that. Like a lot of that stuff that you like, that hot water music, sort of like Americana punk. I guess I just. Outside of maybe like Bouncing Souls and stuff like that, which is from New Jersey, not exactly like Heartland music, I don't care for that stuff as much. I don't think.
I would venture to say you probably haven't listened to a ton of it. So if you did, you might like some more of it. But I mean, different strokes for different folks. We all like what we like. Yeah. I don't like the fat stuff as much as you do. Like I don't care about it much. So like there's that overlap that we have, but this is where we start to have our own lane a little bit.
Yeah.
So. As long as you're not telling me that they're terrible, I would be a little offended by that because I would be shocked. But
no, I really respect a lot of that music. I just don't dive that deep into it. Yeah.
What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna make a playlist of some examples of some of these guys for Spotify, and I'll add some stuff that you have on your list that maybe isn't on mine. If you want to throw me specific song titles, that's fine.
Yeah.
But that way people can get like an idea of what I'm talking about with this fella. Because man, he's Bruce Springsteen, but in my opinion, considerably better. Like quite a bit better. It may not be as popular, but he's better. Yeah, when I first heard them, I played a show with them. And they were way faster back then. It was their first album. It's called Sink or Swim. You can still hear the same kind of sounds. It was just sped up. But I saw them and I was like, it was back when I was dealing with a lot of girl problems. And it really just kind of slid in and filled a void in my life. And I used to wear rolled up jeans and Chuck Taylors and Vans and stuff. So it really just rocked with me immediately, man. They're one of those bands that a lot of punk guys like that isn't necessarily a punk band. So...
yeah, well, it's because you need that outlet, though. Like you get, like what you talk about the fat bands. I think about like the fat bands I like outside of NoFX. It's kind of the more emotional stuff. It's the No Need for a Name and that kind of, which is I think hits on the same exact thing. It's just a slightly different flavor.
This is like
people need that because we can't just be all the. Trust me, like those guys in those bands don't just listen to that all the time.
No,
they really don't.
I was just talking about that with somebody that when you're a street punk artists, they tend to be like, oh, my favorite stuff is like Chuck Berry, and you're like, what? Or I like James Brown a lot. I like Otis Redding, and you're like, that's not what I thought you were going to say. Like, it's pretty interesting, but yeah, I think that Brian Fallon would be what I would. That's like my brand of emo, dude. It's like truck stop emo. No, not truck stop. Like country road emo.
Like, like down home emo. Yeah. Country road emo. It's a grown man emo shit, but Brian Fallon is somebody that I have a lot of respect for and a lot of hours spent listening to his music, man. Number 2, the second best punk rock singer of all time. We spoke about her earlier. Folk punk, just dude. Laura Jane Grace. I don't know that there really is only one vocalist that I like better than Laura Jane Grace in punk rock, in music probably. But dude, you want to talk about a powerful voice? Wow. I have seen them play maybe like 5 times, not a bunch, but enough to be able to tell you that she didn't need a microphone at one of them. She sang at the time she was still going by Tom Gable, and she sang up on stage with an acoustic guitar. I think they had a stand-up bass. It was the Revival tour with Chuck Reagan and Ben Nichols from Lucero. Ben Nichols deserves a mention in this list. He's a really great vocalist. Last from the past.
Dude, I love that band. I'm surprised you like them at all, though. They fall into that, grown man emo stuff. But
yeah, but they were in the mix back in the day. Yeah, it's just
really that surprises me. That's cool though. That's good stuff, man. But yeah, Laura Jane Grace has maybe the single most powerful vocals that I've ever heard in my life. Like when you hear her sing, you're like, oh shit, pay attention. That's a tension grabbing voice right there. That's my favorite word for her voice is powerful. It's just so big. It's got the perfect like range. She can sing, she can yell, she can do both within like a couple of seconds, and it doesn't sound weird. I don't know, dude. Like the sound that can come just from her voice alone is hypnotizing, man. It's amazing, beautiful, bro.
Yeah, because there's almost like an opera thing to it. All of a sudden, like that'll go into gotta find the right reasons to fuck it up. We gotta fuck it up, and it turns into this whole thing. You gotta fuck it up. It's like, bro, it's just so da 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 da. Yeah, man. Like Thrash Unreal, that song literally makes me cry. Like, man, we'll do like, mother had a dream her daughter was going to grow up and be a junkie. Like, I hear that and I'm just like, oh, my mom must have been going through hell when I was younger, dude. Like, I can't imagine. But like, yeah, dude, like, oh my goodness, man. Yeah. I don't know what else to say, dude. Laura Jane Grace has, okay, I'll say it like this. It may not be my favorite, but I would argue that it might be the best voice in punk rock. Because I don't know one that's just a better voice than that. Like, that can do the same things. Like, look, dude, I love Lars's voice.
but he can't project the emotion that Laura Jane Grace gets. I stand behind that. Like she's got
like that's Against Me. That's the sound of Against Me is that voice. That is the sound of that sound. Yeah.
And you can have it unplugged, you can have it plugged in, you can have it distorted, you can have it loud, you can have it quiet, solo with a band. It doesn't matter, man. And then, you know, there's examples of that within her solo material, and you're like, oh yeah, no, this is just, she's just got, I think a lot of it comes from pain though. Like when you live a life that she's had to live, 20 something, 30 years of her being somebody she wasn't, bro, you gonna sound pain. You're gonna sound it. You're
all of us get into punk for identity crises. So
for sure.
And take that to, you know, that level. That's got to be
absolutely
persevere through it like she did, and kind of be still kind of on top there. It's badass. Like
such an important like person
figure
in punk rock as well, and for females out there, and it's a dicey subject to get into. I don't want to alienate my audience or I don't want to sound like I'm somebody I'm not. When I first heard about Laura Jane Grace, I was conflicted. And it takes courage to admit that I'm not. I clearly love Laura Jane Grace, dude. I don't have any qualms with what she's doing with her life. But when I first heard it was a long time ago. That was the first experience I had with that, and it was like, well, holy shit! Like somebody that I kind of idolize. Like, how do I feel about this? It took some time, and I can only imagine if it took me some time, then no wonder she sounds like that in her songs. You know what I'm saying? Like. If it took me some time to just wrap my head around it, well, shit, how does it feel living that? How does it feel waking up every day and seeing a man in the mirror and knowing like, oh, that is not me, because I'm doing that with my physical shape right now. I'm working my ass off to try to get to where I feel, or that I look like I feel, because I don't feel like that guy. I feel like a not, I would say good looking man, but like a man. I feel like a reasonably, you know, in shape, healthy man. And I didn't look it. I looked like a IT guy that sits on his chair for 15 hours a day and eats Cheetos all day. And I was like, yo, I'm not that guy. So if I can go through that with just my shape being wrong, I can only imagine. Man. So for more reasons than that, of course, Laura Jane Grace is, in my opinion, the second greatest vocalist in punk rock history. And I think it's cool that we get to talk about her in the context of females in punk, because it brings to light a very necessary conversation. And we need those people. We need examples. We need, I guess, for lack of a better word, like the martyrs that are going to stand up and risk everything to stand up for what's good and right in the world. And it's a dark place out there, man. And, you know, my religious background would make people think maybe I'm not the guy that's going to stand up for somebody like that. And maybe I can be somebody to lead by example as well. And we can all be better for it. Who knows? But Laura Jane Grace has absolutely amazing music. And that's what we're here to talk about more than anything, is her voice. So yeah, stunning vocalist. And I'll move on to my number one vocalist of all time. I'm certain you know who this is. Please tell me you know who this is.
Keep taking up so many. The One Man Army dude.
Yeah. The shirt was not on purpose. Jack Dalrymple is my favorite punk rock singer of all time. This was a complete accident. It was literally face down in my sack of shirts that my wife folded. I grabbed it, went, took a shower. I put it on and started chuckling because I was like, well, that ain't that rich, bro. I was like, that's hilarious. But Jack Dalrymple is my all-time favorite vocalist of any genre of music. I love his voice. He sings for the Revolts, One Man Army. He did toy guitar. He sings in some of the songs for Swingin' Utters. Dude, that guy has the most beautiful voice that I've ever heard. I love it, man. He changed my life with how he sang, bro. It's so good. There ain't nobody else that does it like him, dude.
But it's still gritty. What's great about it?
It's weird, isn't it?
So it's exactly in line with what you like. But like, if you just kind of fluff everything up that you like if you kind of put a little bit of, I don't know, put a pink star on everything you like,
dude,
it's that
look at this shit-eating grin on my face, bro. I love it so much. It's so pretty and romantic yet tough, dude. My favorite book is The Outsiders. He is like the musical representation of that, bro. Look at it. He looks like it. He sounds like it. He talks like it. He writes music like it. Whoa. He's the musical S.E. Hinton. Oh, wow. That's crazy.
I have to steal that one. I need to use that in my other professions.
Dude, stay gold, Jack Dalrymple. Stay gold.
Oh, man. His attire was great too back in the day because you couldn't tell if he was like trying to dress like a greaser or a street punk, and you realized it was kind of both.
Yeah,
like he white t-shirt, jeans, leather, but like he would wear it where he's both kind of look like a street punk and he just kind of looked like a greaser. It was
he's really where great. I got my whole style from. Outside of shorts, if I was wearing pants, it was to look like him. No joke, dude. I wore blue denim. Look, dude, like in all sincerity, man, as stupid as it is, my vest isn't black, it's blue because that's what he wore. I wanted to be that guy. When there was two dudes that I modeled my stage presence after, and neither of them were Lars. It was Jack Dalrymple and Dwayne Peters of the U.S. Bombs, Die Huns, and whatever. My stage presence, and honestly, kind of my clothing and my hair. I mean, look at my hair now. Like, it resembles more of Jack's hair than it does, say, like a mohawk. You know what I'm saying? So I was always like, that is like who I want to be. If I could have chosen to be anybody, it would have been that guy. When I started my first like real serious band, they were like, hey, bring some CDs to band practice and we'll like listen to it and kind of get an idea what we want to sound like. And I brought 3 CDs. I took U.S. Bombs the World. I took And Out Come the Wolves, and I took One Man Army's Rumors and Headlines. And I think I only played the One Man Army disc. I was like, I want to sound like this. And we didn't. We just started writing music, and organically we came up with different stuff.
Right.
But if I was to do a band today, it would be a One Man Army / Ramones core. Absolutely. There's no way I would play anything else. That's what I love the most. His voice is so amazing, bro. If anybody out there that's watching this has more projects that he's been a part of, dude, he was in Dead to Me, Revolts, Toy Guitar, Swinging Utters, of course, One Man Army. I don't know if he's done anything else, but I love his voice. So, and if you have anybody that sounds kind of like him, there's some other bands out there that I didn't mention tonight because I don't have time. There's other bands that like have that same kind of style and energy, but I don't think any of them did it quite the same. The closest I can get is Swinging Utters. They sound, it's close, but and then when he sings for them, I really like it a lot. But he's the one guy that I would want to meet that I never got to meet. I talked to him for about a minute and a half at the show I saw, and he was busy. And I bought that shirt. It was this shirt, and that's why I went through the trouble of making this because of how much that show meant to me. Yeah, dude, Jack Dalrymple is the absolute bee's knees, bro. That guy's awesome.
Good choice for the list
bro.
too.
Do what?
I think your choice for this list too is just like top level.
What,
you know what I mean?
What a beautiful singer, man. He's just got such a dude. Yeah, bro. I don't know how to explain it. It's gritty, but it's pretty at the same time, and it's like tough and romantic at the same time. It's street punk and greaser at the same time.
It's like the sock hop. It's like the sock hop has gone evil, kind of, but not in like not in a Misfits kind of way, in like a more genuine kind of way. Like there's nothing fantasy about it. You know what I mean?
My mother and I were talking once, and she does not like punk rock. Like she hates it, but she was like, "That guy's got an interesting voice," and she like, so we had talked, and we decided that there was like a direct line from Elvis Presley. No, dude, it's so, you're gonna get it, dude. You're gonna go, oh shit! It goes Elvis, Ramones, Jack Dalrymple, and there's like a direct line of like everything, the look, the sound, and it goes right to him, and it's like, oh man, that's the next evolution of that sound would be Elvis, Ramones, Dalrymple,
the jeans, the hair,
isn't that wild? Even that black hair and everything, bro. Look at that guy. He's dude. People will be like, "This guy is so gay for that dude." Maybe I am. What's to you? Anyways, what were some bands that you liked, or some vocalists that you liked that I didn't have on my list?
Okay, and I mentioned all the ones that I did have. Some that I didn't have. I had Jim Lindberg from Pennywise. I think a big strength of that band
really
is his voice. Yeah. And I like
Oh
a
man,
lot.
that's wild. I didn't think you were gonna say Pennywise.
No,
I thought about Pennywise.
yeah, and to me, like that one was a specific one because, as I said, I really tried not to make it not like I was like I can't have a band on my list. They're on my favorite bands, but I want to say like, is that why they're on this list? So, for example, I do not have like Fat Mike on my list.
Oh
And
yeah, that would be
Fat
wild
Mike's
if you
a
did.
great frontman. Like I'll take
Front
Fat
man, but
Mike
not a
over
good singer.
not necessarily great, like specifically not a good singer. You know, I don't. As much as I'm on my Blink kick right now, I wouldn't necessarily consider any of those guys specifically as
No,
good
dude.
singers.
They're
No,
actively poor singers. That dude, yeah, whatever.
no.
I'm
Jim
gonna make people
Lindbergh,
mad.
I think, is a great singer. Like objective, like I don't want to. Like I like his solo stuff fine enough. Just because I kind of like him, but like I
Wait, he
don't.
has solo stuff?
Yeah, I don't think you'd like it because it's like that acoustic kind of. Well, maybe you would. Yeah.
Dude, I love acoustic music.
Yeah, I was confused.
Yeah, as you were saying it, you're like, I saw your
conversation
face.
Yeah,
Your brain was like, nah, bro, wrong.
I was getting you and Florida Punk Archivist mixed up because he doesn't like.
Does he hate that stuff?
He doesn't like acoustic. Yeah. And he likes a lot of that like kind of dad Florida rock like you like, but he doesn't like the
acoustic version.
Yeah, and just
that's weird.
But no, Jim from Penny and Jim, like he's just a very good singer. He helps those songs and give it that skate punk edge that we talk about. A lot of that is Jim's voice and the way he sings and sings very, kind of complex things. It fits him into very fast music.
I'm gonna look it up. His solo stuff. Sorry, I'm listening, but that's
very
cool.
like yeah, it's very like I would say it's like in the theme of like the lyrics of Pennywise, but a lot less, like F Authority and more, like singer-songwriter kind of stuff.
That's awesome.
So another one I had on my list is this was my cheater pick where I had a slash. I had Henry / Keith / Ron, and I just have like Black Flag singers generally. Honestly,
interesting.
I probably like Ron the most, but he didn't really record that much with him, and I think maybe it might just be the bias of he's the singer on the Decline of Western Civilization.
Dude, I guess I just don't understand how you compile your lists. Because every time we talk, I'm always thinking like, almost every time, it's like that doesn't qualify to me. I mean, whatever, it's your list. It qualifies because it's your list. It's your favorite singer. But I'm blown away that you would put Black Flag, any of the singers of Black Flag, on your favorite vocalist list.
Yeah, I would think Henry would be on most people's list. That's not a surprise to me at all.
Henry Rollins is an awful vocalist.
But if you're into, I feel like he would be the kind of guy you'd be into. You know what I mean?
No, I don't. That's my point. I don't know what you mean. Because like when I think vocals, like who sings, like who's your favorite singer in punk? Like I don't watch fucking whatever.
But to me, like
I'm not trying to be rude about it. I'm just flabbergasted by Black Flag. Like I understood Jim. I understood that. Like I was like, oh, because I thought about that because he does have melody in there and he can sing. But like, damn, bro, like if you're gonna say Black Flag, just go ahead and say like fucking Sex Pistols or some nonsense or something.
I would put Johnny. I consider Johnny Rotten. He's on my list out there. Definitely.
What?
Yeah. There's not like, but it's always what I said, and it's similar to what I've said about Black Flag. There's not enough good music necessarily that was out there that they did, and that's why I kind of had that three-handed thing. Like, but no, but like the way they do like songs like Wasted and that kind of stuff. I think like the vocal stylings are very specific to the quality of those songs.
Yeah, I don't like Black Flag songs though either though. Like in general. So, what was your criteria for like what made a vocalist?
So like I don't care. Yeah, I don't care if they're just like a good singer objectively necessary. I know what I said about like that Mike.
I don't think people would say most of mine are objectively good singers. Some of them, yes, but like Polystyrene, dude.
But like if the voice and stuff is so crucial to the sound of the song and stuff like that, that to me is a huge component.
Yeah, I guess that just means you like Black Flag a lot, huh?
Yeah, I mean, I guess so. Yeah, that's the case too, because that's a lot of what I like of the way a big portion of how I like the way punk rock sounds. Really, I think comes off of a little bit of Black Flag. I like the stuff that's filtered a little bit off of Black Flag, to be honest with you, because the stuff that comes off of Black Flag is kind of that sludgy hardcore stuff that I don't really like.
See, and that's what I think of when I think Black Flag kind of. But that's why I was asking. I just wanted to kind of get an idea of what made like what criteria did you have? Because mine is like, okay, when I'm listening, if I was to go pick out music, what's one of the most important things? Well, the vocalist. Like, I mean, you maybe that's not important as important to you as it is to me, but that is very, very important to me. So it wasn't hard. Like my list was made within like 30 minutes of us talking about it the other day. Like last week, I was like, oh, that's easy. Boom. I already had it. It was very easy because I have a very specific criteria as well. And I want melody, but I want like a gruff singing. Polystyrene, honestly, is the only one that doesn't really fit on my list. I just love her voice. It's just shrill in a way that I appreciate. But everybody else, you could kind of see why I would like it. But I was just trying to wrap my head around your criteria.
I don't have an archetype of a punk singer necessarily, I guess, or a punk vocal style. Because mine is, I wouldn't ever say eclectic, because a lot of just like my guys. But
so you like the Black Flag guys simply because you like Black Flag a lot, and that's the most integral part of the song.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people say the energy of the Black Flag songs, but yeah, it's the lyrics plus the vocals to me in a lot of those. A lot of that 80s punk to me is the vocalists in those bands, because the music really sucks in a lot of those bands. It is the vocalist that
yes, I would agree with that.
A lot of that stuff. I think that is the strength of that, and that's why I kind of don't like my list. I don't have enough of that stuff. I feel like even on here, like to be like, I sort of have.
If I was going to go that direction, I would have said Ian MacKaye. Over the Black Flag guys, because he had a more, in my opinion, he had a more like like I could listen to it longer than the Black Flag guys, but I thought that the sound in his voice was a little more urgent, and I felt a little more sincere is not the right word, but like headed down that.
I think more people would say that. I think more people.
You think so?
Yeah, especially.
I didn't mean to come off such like so. I was just shocked by the Black Flag thing. I wasn't trying to sound like a complete asshole, but like I was just. Completely, you could have given me 100 guesses. I never would have said Black Flag. What are you doing, dog?
So let's move on from Black Flag and go at number 8. Someone you mentioned but wasn't on your list, but of course was going to be on my list, and that's Davey Havok. Specifically, you want to talk about what's my favorite part of AFI? It's Davey Havok. Even the AFI I don't like, I still kind of like listening to Davey Havok. I've always liked Davey Havok. I like pretty much every register of Davey Havok. I like skate punk, hardcore Davey Havok. I like the good horror punk Davey Havok. I even like emo Davey Havok, and I don't like that version of AFI very much. And I like all those versions of Davey Havok.
Actively hate that version of AFI. I don't think they should even be called AFI, but I have a lot of respect for Davey Havok. I only like the first 4 AFI albums. Maybe it's 5. I think it's 4. But he was floating around in my, like when I was thinking like, should I change it up a little bit? He was also one of the guys that was like kind of floating around. Him and Jim Lindberg. And I'll see if you get to the other one. If you don't, I'll tell you later. But yeah, he was floating around there, and I almost put him in just because I truly do love the first records so much that AFI is like a top band to me, and I only include like a third of their discography. Like that should say something, or half. Like that should say a lot. If they're like let's say a top 25 band, I think they're probably like a top 20 band to me. And I only include half their discography. That's a powerful chunk of music right there. So
I'm pretty aligned with you on that. And like I said, like I do kind of like all this. I just don't want to listen to anything else they have necessarily. Like I like what they have.
I can't listen to it. It's so bad, dude. I just good. Like. I was forced to listen to a lot of it, and I think had I been able to discover some of it, I might have not been so just adamant that it sucks, but I was like force-fed new AFI when I didn't want to hear it. I didn't like it. It was just like, bro, it went from like, I don't really care for this to like, no, I hate this shit. Get it away from me. It's like when your parents make you eat lima beans. You're never going to like them now. They're forever, but anyways, let's continue. Sorry.
Vegan Davey Havok appreciates that analogy.
I forgot that fool was vegan. Yeah.
Number 7, a guy. So this is a funny one for me because this is one of my favorite bands, but like will never make my top 10 bands list. But this guy's voice, I don't even know if it's good necessarily, but it's again an integral part of everything this guy does. Actually, it is good. It's different over the years, and that is Joey Cape. Joey Cape of
okay.
Now, and I think his voice is the distinctive part of that band. Now they sound great, and people like again, shout out to Florida Punk Archivist. He can't stand he's the biggest Lagwagon fan you ever met. And he can't stand basically 2003 Joey Cape and on because his voice is kind of shot, because part of what it is Joey Cape had that thing where he did the high pitched thing, but within a more skate punk styling than say like a Blink or those other mainstream bands did. Like he did that kind of high pitched thing, and it was a little more novelty, but he's doing it at that skate punk, really like driving pressure, sort of no effect speed and sound. And he really just kind of did blow his voice out like very, very early on in his career. However, since then, this is where he is a part of my old man music phase. is I
Okay.
absolutely love his singer-songwriter, and a lot of people don't like his singer-songwriter stuff, or
I wasn't a fan of it myself.
the stuff in Lagwagon that got slower and older and dad rockier. I really like him doing that stuff. And to me, it's like I almost I like sometimes when a singer's voice changes throughout their career, and you have a few different versions of them. And we have a few different versions of Joey, I think. And he will always say he learned how to sing. That's what happened. Not that his voice blew out, but I just think like the way he tried to sing in the 90s was probably not sustainable for anyone.
Okay.
Like, you couldn't sing like that, but it was that styling that I think kept them a little bit more unique than a lot of their peers, because they were kind of in like a higher register than like the pop punk guys on the radio. But again, they're still a fat band. They're still, playing in these dive punk bars. They were just a good mix of kind of those two worlds.
Lagwagon's a band that I'm getting a little more interested in. There's a young lady that is she's like a 12-year-old kid, and she's a I can't remember her name, but she's a drummer, and I'm trying to get her on the podcast because she's like 12, and I just want to show her some love because she covers punk songs, and she's got this big ass Lagwagon banner behind her, and I was like, oh, and she was wearing like a Propaganda t-shirt, and I was like, this kid rules. Like,
this is like my daughter, my long lost daughter, or somewhere in all these fat.
You know what I'm saying, bro? It really for sure is, dude. Yeah, Lagwagon's a band that I'm going to get more into very soon here.
I don't envision you liking them. I really don't.
No.
Yeah. Because I think they're jokey in a way that if you didn't get it at the time, it's kind of hard to get into. I feel that way about like some of the Ramones core stuff, to be honest with you, just because like I didn't not that I saw a lot of the Lagwagon at the time, but I was still kind of in the zeitgeist of it, you know what I mean? So it doesn't seem as like dated as some of that other stuff does. And I think we always talk about that with comedy. Comedy's hard to like shout out to Noah for kind of staying funny forever. Like that's something we kind of do a couple of weeks ago. Speaking of a guy that's funny forever, and I won't spend a lot of time on him because we already talked about him, at number 6 was Matt Skiba. Also, Matt Skiba, the one thing we talked about is the way he's able to fit what he does vocally, like the mechanics of his voice into some of those songs. I think is we talked about it. He has almost like a percussive appeal to some of his songs, especially like I really want to talk. I really want to, and it's just that pacing and stuff.
Dude, he's so good.
Well, yeah. Talk about you love We've Had Enough. And just think of like what he does in that song. That's an amazing vocal performance in that song.
That is a good song.
It wouldn't be one of my lists if I didn't have Tony Sly somewhere on the list. So I've got him at number 5 on this list. Again, not a surprise. I like his voice very specifically. And it was interesting because when you reviewed him, you pointed out some stuff that you kind of didn't like about his voice and stuff that I had to sort of think about. Like, it kind of made me realize how much I really did like him, because some of the stuff you said was correct. Like, oh shit, he did get better as the years went on. And he in my, I sort of have this like golden vision of him, and so you kind of making me see that kind of makes me appreciate like even the stuff of their band that I don't really like their coffee shop era stuff that I always say I don't really like. It's still very good music because he sings very, very well. Like, he's very good at that. It's kind of like the Green Day thing with that other album. It's maybe could have been called something else, and you'd like it like a whole lot more. Then again, isn't
that a weird thing that people do? Like, good music should be good music, but we get stuck in this like rut where we're like, I don't want to hear like. I don't like the Rancid 2000 album. If it was called something else, maybe I would have approached it different.
Branding's. We can all say that we're so cool. It's all about the music, but branding's important. Like Kiss and the Ramones knew what they were doing. Branding matters.
People that don't think branding is important are liars, dude. I'm so sick of people being like, "Oh, the punk rock uniform. These guys are posers because they had mohawk." Nah, bro. You're mad because either you couldn't do the mohawk or you did it and girls didn't like you. Like, stop with your anger for no reason, your jealousy. It's seeping through the comment section on YouTube. Stop being a fucking dork and just accept the fact that not all of us could do that. I was never good at that, man. I was never good at the spike jacket and big colored mohawk thing. I tried it. I really wanted to be that guy. I wasn't. I'm comfortable in my own skin now. I'm not going to go hate on somebody and it's just so annoying. Branding is absolutely important, dude. Absolutely.
No,
absolutely. The Misfits logo. Are you freaking kidding me, dude? Of course, it's important.
Yeah, and honestly, like I'm in like a little of a Metallica.
People make me so mad.
And it's funny. It's like if you can get mad like when Metallica cut their hair. Like, oh, because they're all about their image now because they cut their hair.
That was surprising.
But it's like you're also attached to their prior image. Then you are admitting you are attached to an image of them that you are holding true. Because again, it's a visual media. Like music, in a way, is a visual media, especially.
I would say so.
Yeah, like you go to see live shows. Like you don't go to hear live shows. You go to see live shows. I hear music
Right. I never thought
on
about
the
it like
radio.
that.
You know, but like we talk about, like I'm looking at an album cover right now, looking at No Effects, and it's art is we talk about art all the time as
Right.
part of punk rock specifically, which has the best art to me of all the music. It's got the best artwork associated with it. And art is
agree with
subjective. So I'm going to say it's the best art because that's my subjective freaking opinion. Just like it's my subjective opinion that number 4 on my list is one of the most hated men in punk rock, and that is Glenn Danzig at number 4 on my list.
God, he is such a bad vocalist.
But I love that sound. I love that Misfit sound. I love that crooning sound. I love what he tries to sing, and it gets right. And then
I prefer Michael Graves as far as vocalists, but then Danzig was the superior songwriter for sure.
Yeah, and then I actually am not related to this, but I don't like Danzig's solo music, but I think his voice in that stuff is amazing. Like I love that.
Mother.
Yeah, I like that song, but like I can't listen to like Danzig, and I would never go see like a Danzig live performance. That seems like I'd rather do almost anything else ever in the world.
Does anybody ever give you shit for saying Danzig and not Danzig?
Yeah, but I don't care. Just like I'll never say Jello Biafra, right? And I don't care. Like,
wait, really? How are you supposed to say it?
I don't know because I've got too confused with people commenting on it in the comments.
Well, okay, how do you say it?
So I say Biafra, and I think is it Biafra or yeah.
Now that to me is a little surprising that they would nitpick that. Biafra, whatever. I've always said Jello Biafra. I don't even know how to say it. I don't like the Dead Kennedys anyways. God, I don't like a lot of stuff, bro.
I'm gonna amend my thing that you're the most open-minded guy I knew on music because after that admission there.
No, I mean I am. That's the thing is somebody told me the other day, and it made so much sense. They said the more you love music, the more stuff you're gonna also hate. And I was like, damn. Because I love music and I love so many different kinds, but I really dislike a lot of stuff that everybody else seems to really love.
Well, I think when you like stuff, you know specifically why you like it, so you know specifically why you don't like other things, though, too. That's part of
this is going to sound really crazy, but I really enjoy Olivia Rodrigo. Like, genuinely listen to her music. I really like it. Her voice is pretty to me, but like I can understand why people don't like her, I guess. But like, I don't really care for stuff like I don't know, Kelly Clarkson, somebody that's a very objectively good singer. I'm just like, yeah, but I hear it. I'm like, it just sounds.
Yeah, her stuff never moved me. Like,
like Olivia Rodrigo, Taylor Swift.
I get the Olivia Rodrigo thing. Yeah. Well, it's funny.
Lady Gaga, I like her vocals a lot.
Yeah, and she's I think a great front woman too. She's kind of on both ends. Now look at us breaking down like top 40 women here, and
right, it's weird, isn't it?
Olivia and I got my daughter who's kind of into punk rock, and she didn't like the first Olivia Rodrigo album because people were saying that that was right when the MGK thing started, and there was like a little bit of that Paramore. Well, she got sued by Paramore, remember? So everyone was saying like, oh, she's on this pop punk wave, and then she's got this new album that I don't think hits on that at all. And I think, according to my daughter's review, it's very good and a lot better than the last one. So that's her official review. But
I need to go listen to the new.
I like her voice though. Like
it's so nice, dude. Her voice is beautiful, and she writes good lyrics. Like you could tell she's a youngster, but she writes good lyrics. I need to go listen to the new album a little bit more. I've listened to most of it once. I haven't listened to it all the way through yet.
If I ever made my Spotify stuff public, I think people would freak out sometimes. Like the random stuff that I'll go check out and be like, that is good. And
I've got some random shit on mine. I got like Justin Timberlake on there somewhere. I've got like probably a couple of Jonas Brothers songs.
It's funny because there's a lot of like hardcore stuff that you think I would be into that I'm like, I mean, I like it, but like I don't really ever take the time to listen to it. Right? I kind of want to I kind of want to check out like what is going on there. Speaking of stuff I want to check out, well, something we already checked out, and that was Lars at number 3 on my list for all the assorted reasons. Also, not bad in like that speaky talking thing that he does like on the solo albums or on Life Won't Wait. I think Life Won't Wait's a good showcase of all the different vocal stylings of Lars. Lars does like the MC thing on that thing.
Stuff he's literally just talking though.
Yeah, but it's still good. Like his voice is like soothing to hear for a Lemmy imitator. It's a soothing voice.
Yeah, because when he talks it like that, he's not talking like we're talking now. He's talking like this, so he's talking a little more with a little more of an inflection.
Yeah, dated pop stars. It did it. I just could hear him like read stuff. Like it's funny.
It's like he's talking some shit on stage a little bit. It's
kind of there's kind of almost like a slam poetry kind of like vibe to it. Okay, number 2. this one does cross section with my greatest bands list. Is number 2 on my list, on that list, and that is Joey Ramone.
Interesting. I like the Ramones a lot.
This is one of the this one and number 1 I was pretty set on when I thought of this list, but Joey I knew was going to be up there, and I thought about it like the Ramones I think get slandered for like, oh, they made the same album all the time. Like, no, that's not true. They made a lot of different types of like the punk rock that they made in all their different albums, but like they tried a lot of different stuff. They were constantly hunting for a hit record. So there's like R&B inflections.
Well, he's got a rap album that is just god awful.
Well, that's Dee Dee Ramone. That's not.
Yeah, but still, I mean, yeah. I consider that part of their.
Sure. Yeah. No, but no, they did do like they were. It's funny. They always say like all this stuff. Well, the Ramones did this. That's why punk. Like, yeah, but they weren't trying to be punk in doing it. It just like people just started basing everything they did.
Right. Yeah, I don't think that they were ever trying to be a punk band. They just were a punk band.
Like a magazine writer called them punk rock, and they said, okay, I guess that's what they were trying to be. You said Elvis. They were kind of trying to be like the Beatles and the Beach Boys, but that was the concept of like
faster
classic rock and roll. That is exactly they didn't like the Jefferson Airplane and a lot of the hippie stuff.
Yeah, they didn't like the hippie shit. It's really what it boils down to.
Yeah, and like Tommy Ramone said, he said like solos are great when Hendrix and Stevie Ray Vaughan are doing them, but when everyone who's not really that good at playing guitar doing them, it gets a little boring. So the way they looked at it is like they were doing like efficient rock.
I agree with that. I like that. I mean, listen to some of my favorite music is very much just that.
Punk rock is efficient. I think that is sort of that's what separates punk rock music from like hippie protest music. And I think like the early punk rock, that's exactly what it is. It's like and like there is jam punk rock, and I like, but even that it's its own thing. But like when we think of we think of short songs. That's a big tenet of punk rock, something that the Ramones themselves pioneered. Now Joey's voice does all kinds of stuff. Now, some people have a problem with it because they say he didn't really sing early on. Like it's always acknowledged he had a great voice, but there's not a lot of singing on those early albums. But it's also not he didn't do the scruffy stuff till later. I think actually till his throat cancer kind of started is when he did a little scruffier vocals. Yeah. So early on, he himself, he loved John Lennon. He loved the Bob stuff. That's why he dressed the way he wanted to do. That's what he wanted to be. Like he kind of saw himself as that, plus like a little bit of like a Ziggy Stardust, and he liked like that 70s glam side a little bit more than the rest of the guys. So he brought a little bit of that to it. A guy who is like this social outcast kind of guy, but as Marky Ramone said, always had a girlfriend. You know,
isn't that weird?
Or CJ said he said so the Ramones fans would come, and he said, you know, like the hardcore guys, because CJ was from New York, so the New York hardcore guys liked him. So all the ugly dudes would be on this side, and he said all the punk rockers with the mohawk, they were on that side watching Johnny Ramone and doing the downstrokes. And he said, and all the pretty girls were right in the middle. They were all watching Joey with his long hair and like. Yeah,
he was. I mean, that dude was a very
iconic in the way
unattractive fella.
Yeah, who had always had all these songs about the girls leaving him because he always had girlfriends because he had a lot of experience.
Isn't that weird?
Yeah, but felt I don't want to miss, but like felt alienated, and you could hear the alienation in a lot of those. A lot of Ramones music is happiness and sadness kind of tinged together. Like they have a lot of songs about like mental illness that are just like happy songs about mental illness and going crazy and literally about being in.
They definitely had a lot of like real world like life issues that like skipped like a stone across the lake. It was just like, oh, there's that, but underneath all that was like all the heavy revision melody and the look. But if you just skipped a stone, it was like just touching on these like, you know, I don't know if that makes any sense, but it makes sense when I was thinking it.
I'm not saying this to be derogatory, but how, because they would like this. How would stupid people talk about very serious issues? And the Ramones have a lot of that. And they were not trying to be a serious band. They just had Dee Dee and like different people would write different lyrics and they would kind of do their lyrics, but it always kind of came out as the Ramones, and that's what they did. And like I said, so like if you want to hear Joey's power, their worst album in my opinion is End of the Century. It's the album the album where they tried to sell out unsuccessfully. They did. They worked with Phil Spector, who had not recorded since he recorded with like the Beatles and stuff. And John
My man said they tried to sell out.
They did. That was okay. They did the 4 records. They had Sedated, Bop. They basically created a whole genre of music and made. Okay, the Ramones were always sustainable in that, like Tommy and all them said, when you joined the Ramones, it's the only band you ever joined. You got a paycheck every week from an accountant. Like it was that efficiently run of a thing.
Pretty badass though, huh?
Yeah, they just kind of never had a hit. But they were punk, so they always had a live show. So they made, and there's even the argument that they were actually a t-shirt company. Like you could actually argue they made more money from shirts. They were kind of a merchandise.
I would say that's probably pretty accurate.
That had a band. So you have that, and then you go in, and they basically said, "Screw it, let's be rock stars, and let's bring in this producer that wants to work with us." Because the thing about it, people in music like the Ramones, the music industry didn't really.
Okay. See, I'll always be learning some shit talking to you.
So Phil Spector comes in and he hasn't produced anything, and turns out the reason why he hadn't produced anything is because he was a freaking maniac. And he's holding the Ramones there at gunpoint. And Phil Spector recently passed away after serving jail time for murdering.
That guy. Okay,
the last album he ever actually produced, 1980s, end of the century. A whole
the best Ramones album is what, according to you, right?
No, it's the opposite. It's got plenty
I'm talking shit.
Great songs. Plenty of great songs. Like some of their big hits, like to the extent they had hits. But the thing is Phil Spector fell in love with Joey's voice. And so he tried to make kind of like a 60s rock album. Like instead of the Ramones sounding like an homage to 60s rock, he kind of just tried to make a 60s
rock album.
As the Ramones in 1980, as like punk's kind of getting underground and cool. That was just the wrong time and place, to make like a Partridge Family.
Dudes like that make those kind of boneheaded decisions because they think they know shit they don't know.
Right. And he knew sound and stuff, but he just didn't he was trying to apply, like when you see guys, I would say guys like Rick Rubin and those kind of guys that have stayed relevant, they always know stuff before we do, even if they're really old. They're kind of they're not trying to do what they did.
It is kind of, that is kind of accurate actually.
Yeah. And so, but I say all that to say, like, if you want to see how good of a regular singer Joey also would have been, had he have sort of taken that, had he have been a normal guy in a normal band, he probably would have been, he might not have been famous. He probably wouldn't have, because he had to be Joey Ramone to be the Ramones, but he was extremely good singer. And then I'll close it up here. Later in their career, when the Ramones get really haggard, and they the Ramones did this thing where they kind of created hardcore almost by accident too in the 80s when they stopped doing like the Phil Spector stuff. They said, we're just going to do the Ramones. And as they did it, they started getting heavier. They started noticing they're influencing thrash. They're influencing New York hardcore. And as they influence stuff, they would kind of lean into the stuff they were influencing a little more. And it's like some of their 80s stuff is harder and faster than anything else they did in their whole
That's
career.
Weird.
And Joey's voice at the time, because of the throat cancer, because of his alcoholism, sounds extremely gruff, and he was just straight up drunk during a lot of those sessions. So he's got a gruff voice kind of later in his career with that slick Joey Ramone thing. That is an unbelievable monologue I just gave on Joey Ramone. So I need to take a drink of water.
No, it's okay. My ADHD was kicking my ass. I was trying to scribble on some paper. I literally just drew a skull. So I could listen to you, because I may not be looking, but you've known me long enough to know now that if I'm not looking, I'm still listening. I have to doodle on stuff. I can't quit fidgeting, bro. It's like the one thing that I wish I could not be on camera because of, but it is what it is, man. I had a real bad, so it's going to start coming now. Real bad stutter the other day on a video, and I left it in on purpose because I thought people would appreciate it. And they did, but it was bad, bro. I got caught on a word. And I just couldn't get off of it. It was crazy, but I leave all that stuff in my videos just to make people, I don't know, it would have made me feel comfortable if somebody that I was entertained by was more like me to some degree. So yeah, the Ramones are a band that I know about this much of, but I really like all the stuff that they affected, probably more than I even do like their stuff. Like I like Ramones core bands better than I do Ramones bands. The Ramones, because I feel like it's kind of like the whole thing with the Clash and Rancid. Like
the Clash is exactly how I know they were good. I just don't really listen to them.
Okay, I know people say they're good. I think that they were not a good band, but I know they were popular, and I know they influenced Rancid a lot. That doesn't mean I have to like them too. That's the most wild ass statement. Did you have a number one that we haven't talked about yet?
Yeah. And I'll just say it quickly because I think Joey was kind of my number one. Like actually, now that I went on it, like Joey was number one, but Greg Graffin was always kind of my number one of Bad Religion.
So that's the one that I was like, I don't like his voice. Actually, that's what I don't like about it. I don't like his voice. Dude. So yeah, continue your thoughts, and then
I would just say I think like Joey again. I think is the singer in punk. Now that I'm saying it, but I think as far as like vocal standards, I think Greg Graffin like is the vocal standard for a singer, not necessarily a vocalist. Even because I think you can say vocalist. You might say I wouldn't say he falls short, but he has a very specific styling. Like, and if you don't like that, there's not a ton of range there within what he does. There's a lot of range, but it is like Greg Graff. Like there is a certain, that's the Bad Religion Greg Graff, and he kind of sounds like that in everything he does, even his solo stuff that's a little bit slower. It's pretty much just like acoustic versions of his songwriting contribution to Bad Religion, you know.
I think I jumped the gun there with his saying his voice. That's not really what I don't like about it. I meant to switch that around. His voice is what I do like about Bad Religion. What I don't like is his lyrics. Somebody on the live stream was like, "Hey, listen to this Bad Religion song," and I was like, "Okay, cool." And I was down, but it's because I was talking about I didn't really care for their more recent stuff. And this kid's like, "Hey, listen to this specific song." So I went and found the song with like a lyric video, and I was like, "Dude, this right here is why I don't like this band. Every word is 4 syllables or more. It doesn't sound easy to say. It doesn't sound easy to listen to. It's not easy to sing along with. And I got to break out a fucking dictionary to understand what this guy's saying." I wasn't a college professor. I didn't barely get out of high school. So like somebody like that, I'm just not going to resonate with that. Like you are literally like his target audience. Punk rocker, educated, educator. Like,
no, seriously, I had that revelation like a few months ago. Like, oh crap. That's exactly. Of all these bands, that's the band that probably like, or that hits me of all these bands. Like, yes, I am the reason why there's like, I have 3 books here because there's probably a lot of people like that are specifically me that like it for those reasons. Like what you're saying is kind of why I like, and I could also get how that's very alienating. And if I didn't like the other stuff about them too, I would hate that about them too.
Yeah.
That's also a thing. You know what I mean?
I mean, they've got plenty of music that I adore. They've got, I do like his voice. I don't know why I said it like the way I said it to begin with, but yeah, dude, it does alienate me, and it makes me feel like I don't want to listen to this because I'm going to end up saying something that isn't right, or I'm going to misunderstand something, or I'm not going to get it. I'm not intellectual. I'm not going to try to be. I don't want to fake the funk for nobody.
I don't think that was as important before with them, and I think the internet's kind of ruined that. I've thought about this recently because like I think that was always it's not like the punk rock was like. Bad Religion was there's a lot of educated punk rock, but Bad Religion's always been kind of the smart band. They're kind of like an REM within like punk rock, you know what I mean? Kind of like, and I don't think that ever mattered as much because even if you didn't know what it meant, like I 15-year-old me loved those lyrics and didn't know what they were. It sounded cool and like apocalyptic and like I think the vibe of it kind of worked. And I know you kind of missed that with them. So that might be kind of part of it. Like I never thought you had to have like a literacy in what Bad Religion was singing. Like certainly I have dove into their music quite a bit.
Then like, I personally consider that super poser shit. If you're listening to a band and you don't even know what the fuck they're talking about, that's crazy to me, bro. Like the Dead Kennedys, I didn't like them for a lot of the same reasons. I didn't like what he was talking about because I didn't know a lot about it. Like I don't listen to Rancid and be like, man, I have no idea what it's like to be standing outside waiting on a bus. Like I have no idea what that's like. Fucking course I do. You know what I'm saying? Like, but Bad Religion, they talk about things that, and also there's a lot of stuff that we disagree on in there. Not me and you, but like them and I. In their lyrics, so it's like okay,
but that's what I think. If you generally were more in agreement with them, you would kind of have an idea of what these songs were. Like I don't think you're meant to necessarily understand all. I think that's well,
they're not saying them for you to not know what they're talking about, though, dude. Like he is like, saying stuff in those songs, and he's using words that a certain kind of person will get behind. And honestly, I have seen and heard a lot of people talk about music, not just Bad Religion, but music that they don't know what the fuck they're talking about. And it just seems like to me like, I want people to think that I know something I don't, so I'm going to wear a Bad Religion shirt. I need to project this image of this. I wear this shirt so people know what I'm jamming and what I'm into. It's what we all do. We just said style matters, advertising matters, brand matters. We're advertising us by the clothes we wear. So if you wear a Bad Religion shirt and you don't know what the fuck they're talking about, then I think that's stupid. It doesn't make any sense to me. It sounds very.
People really didn't know what American Jesus was talking about. Like
some of them did, but okay, you're using one song. I'm talking about them as a whole. The totality of Bad Religion's music is very confusing. It's very literate. It's
like but people still can understand Suffer. They can understand Change of. I just think I don't think the learning curve is
to a certain degree. Yeah, sure, but
if I to understand everything, like yes,
of their music. No, but you're not understanding my point. You're wanting to pick little bitty examples out, and I'm talking about them as a whole. As a whole, they write very intellectual, very intelligent music with lots of big ass words in it. So as a whole, if you're like, oh yeah, man, I fuck with Bad Religion heavy, and then dude, You don't think that it would take 2 minutes of us talking about their music for you to have an idea of something that I didn't understand about one of their songs?
Sure, but I don't think
so. I'm not gonna walk around wearing their T-shirts acting like I fucking like them a lot. I don't even understand half what they're talking about, nor do I want to or care.
Would you wear a shirt
point.
for music that is foreign language though, that you didn't understand the language? That's why I don't really get that. Yeah, that's what I don't.
Okay, so I haven't yet, so I guess I can say no to that because I haven't yet. Huh. It depends on like why would I wear a shirt for a band that I don't fucking understand what they're saying? What if they're saying a bunch of like pro-Nazi shit and I had no idea because I didn't know what the fuck they were saying? So no, I guess I wouldn't wear a shirt that I wasn't very confident I knew what the band represented and talked about. No, I wouldn't.
But I still think you could find out what a band represented and talked about without speaking the language, though. You think these bands,
sure, and I could,
these American punk bands that travel all over the world. You think the people that
are my point is, but I can find out what Bad Religion's talking about without being a college.
That's what I was saying. That was my point. That was my original point.
But I don't want to. I don't think you should have to go and figure it out. A foreign language band is a different thing, bro. That's a band that are likely not saying the same words that Bad Religion are saying. They're just saying the same words I would understand in a different language. That's different. That's a message that I'm talking about. If there's another band in a foreign language that's singing the same conceptually the same music as Bad Religion with the same language, just in their language, same words in their language, it's the same thing. Like you're wanting to pick out these little examples and go, oh, because you know what Suffer's about, or you knew what American Jesus is about. Okay, yeah, they did write some songs. They had to, bro. If they didn't write some songs like that, they never would have been who they are. Because a lot of people that like Bad Religion, I would be absolutely shocked to find out that a fair amount of their fans really don't know what they're talking about.
I agree, but that's what I'm saying. Like, why is that essential? I am agreeing with you. Like,
because not, okay, my like, point was that's fucking retarded. Like, I don't know how you could. I don't know how you could wear a shirt or be that big of a fan of a band that you don't understand a lot of what they're talking about. Like, I just don't. I can't imagine.
You think these metal guys though know all like the demonology and stuff that these guys
I don't
are
like
about?
Metal guys either. They're fucking idiots. Metal guys, you're gonna throw that at me?
I'm just saying, like it's not like I just think it's a weird hill to die on that because you don't
proving my point.
Like
metal guys are fucking retarded.
You don't ever know the lyrics we're talking about. Now suddenly that's a stance that you're taking.
Dude, what?
Like you always say you never like know about the meaning and the context of these songs and stuff, but why? How does Bad Religion? Like I don't.
I'm saying that I don't always pay attention to them.
Okay,
that's not the same. I literally just told you I pulled up a video with a lyric so I could read it along with it. Paying attention to what? The lyrics. So of course I paid attention to them. If I was to go and sit down with a lyric book for an Alkaline Trio album, it wouldn't be hard to understand what they were talking about. But if I was to open up a lyric book for a Bad Religion record, my only point is that I would have to look up at least one word per song, if not multiple, and I don't want to do that. And since I don't do that, I don't. Yes, I'm not going to go represent and say I like this band, and somebody's going to go, "Oh, what about this song?" And I go, "Fuck, man, I have no idea what that's actually about." I'm not doing that. I think that's poser shit.
You want to have studied? You want to have studied for the test? Yeah.
My only point is like, don't do. We went kind of left of what my point actually was. My only point is like, I think a lot of their fans aren't really that knowledgeable of what they're talking about, and I don't rock their shirts, so I don't look like a fucking idiot. That was my only actual point, making me argue about shit that wasn't really my point, you bastard. But yeah. And on that note, let's get the fuck out of here. I gotta go. I was supposed to be off here like 45 minutes ago, but yeah, dude. Bad Religion, but they were the one, but Bad Religion was one that definitely was like jotted down. Like, man, I might want to talk about these guys because even if I don't listen to their music as much as I could or should or might, whatever the word would be, I'd be foolish to not recognize the impact that they've had on punk rock and even vocalists in punk rock, to be honest.
It's the one vocalist that was trained in a church. You know what I mean? Like a lot of musicians got their first start, like, you know, in a church band or in a choir, but him specifically trained as a singer in a like evangelical church. I think
interesting.
It's so specific to that band of how they sound. And
dude, that's a perfect example of like Matt overcorrecting. He's like brought up in a church. He's like, oh, you know what? I'm gonna start this band.
That's why when they released the Christmas album, it was all like religious Christmas songs. It wasn't Rudolph and stuff. You know what I mean?
if anybody made it that far in this video, I'm gonna get just absolutely annihilated in the comments.
I don't know. I think you turned it around. I'm a senior point. I think by the end.
Oh man, I don't care, dude. Here's the actual funny part is that I do some of that stuff very intentionally to get those people fired up so that they do comment, because unfortunately we need that, because based on your content, YouTube doesn't really care about your content being good. They want engagement, they want this and that. It's really, really backwards, man. Because if it was all about the quality of our content, I could probably settle down a little bit and make it a little more sincere. I guess is probably not the right word, but I think you know what I'm talking about, with a little more chill and just have a, but they want you to be all crazy. That's why the thumbnails are all like Finn McKenty going, fucking dude looks like a fucking alien on his thumbnails, dude. Dude, yeah, whatever. I don't want to get on a Finn McKenty rant right now. Yeah. Don't watch that guy's videos. He doesn't need your money. I do. So, I mean, that's actually facts, but like I was being facetious. But that's a Greg Gaffin word right there.
There you go. You learned it.
All right, everybody. Next week, we're going to talk about Green Day and Alkaline Trio's new albums a little more thoroughly, spend a little more time on them, probably lean a little heavier on Alkaline Trio since it'll be the newest one out.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
But Alkaline Trio, Green Day, and then, dude, just for shits and giggles, prepare a handful of like guilty pleasure artists that you listen to. Just some non-punk rock shit. We kind of touched on that tonight. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Maybe like some of your favorite pop acts or something.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's piss everyone off.
Hell yeah. Cool, man. All right, everybody. We'll see y'all later, man. Rob will send you the footage later. And yeah, take it easy, everybody. Peace.